I never thought that one small decision, to walk out without my usual defenses, would unravel everything I believed about love, loyalty, and what it means to be seen. If you're watching this, stay with me till the end, because what happened next changed me forever. There are moments in life when silence feels heavier than words. For me, that silence began one early evening when the house felt emptier than usual. My husband, Daniel, had left early for another meeting, and the walls of our home seemed to echo the absence of his laughter. I stood by the mirror, looking at myself, not the way we do when adjusting hair or makeup, but deeply, as if searching for a person who had quietly disappeared. Somewhere between marriage and motherhood, I had lost pieces of myself. My laughter had grown quieter, my dreams smaller, and my reflection distant. That evening, I decided to step outside, not dressed up, not hiding behind perfection. Just bare in the truest sense. Bare of pretending. Bare of acting like everything was fine. When I opened the door, I didn't know that someone was watching. Across the street lived Ethan, a quiet man, recently divorced. We'd exchanged polite smiles before, nothing more. He was one of those people who seemed to notice everything but said very little. That evening, as I stepped out into the soft orange light of sunset, I saw him for the first time. Really saw him. He was fixing something by his car, hands covered in oil, a faint tune humming from his lips. When our eyes met, it wasn't flirtation, it was recognition. A silent understanding of two people who had both been living behind walls. He looked surprised, as if seeing a part of me he hadn't expected. I smiled awkwardly and said, "Don't worry. I'm just getting some air." He laughed gently. Sometimes that's the bravest thing to do. That line stayed with me longer than it should have. Days passed. The air between Ethan and me began to change, not in words or glances, but in presence. Sometimes he'd wave from across the street. Other times, he'd bring groceries to my porch, saying he bought too much. It wasn't about attraction. It was about attention. For the first time in years, someone was seeing me not as a wife, not as a mother, but as a person trying to breathe through loneliness. Daniel remained distant, both physically and emotionally. His phone became his new companion. His laughter, once shared with me, now echoed in other rooms during late-night calls. One night, as I sat alone on the couch, Ethan texted, "You look tired today. Take a walk tomorrow. The sky's been beautiful lately." I don't remember giving him my number, but somehow, it felt natural that he had it. I told myself it was innocent. That talking to someone who listened wasn't betrayal. But deep down, I knew how thin the line had become. The next morning, I stepped out again, bare in spirit, unguarded. Ethan was sitting on his porch with a cup of coffee. "Morning," he said. "You're early." "I couldn't sleep," I replied. He smiled softly. "Me neither." We walked. Not far, just down the quiet lane where the air smelled of rain and the leaves shimmered with dew. Our words flowed easily, about life, mistakes, and everything in between. There was something profoundly human in the way he listened. No judgment. No pretense. Just presence. When we stopped by the riverbank, I turned to him and asked, "Do you ever feel like you've become invisible in your own life?" He didn't answer right away. Then quietly every day. And in that silence, something inside me broke open. Not into chaos, but into truth. I wish I could say I turned back then, that I remembered the vows, the years, the promises. But when you've been lonely long enough, even kindness can feel like salvation. That evening, when Daniel returned home, I tried to speak. To tell him how I felt unseen, unwanted, forgotten. But he brushed it off with a tired sigh. "Clara, I've had a long day," he said, scrolling through his phone. "Can we not do this tonight?" And just like that, another piece of me folded into silence. The next morning, when I saw Ethan again, he looked at me with concern. "You okay?" I lied. "I'm fine." He shook his head gently. You're not. But you will be. It wasn't romantic. It was raw. Two people standing in their own brokenness, holding space for each other without asking for more. Weeks turned into months. I found myself rebuilding slowly, writing again, walking more, rediscovering laughter in small moments. Ethan became a quiet friend, a reminder that connection doesn't always lead to chaos. Sometimes it leads to clarity. One evening, I walked out to the porch and saw Daniel watching me. For the first time in a long time, there was something in his eyes, fear, maybe, or realization. Where have you been lately? He asked. Here, I said simply. Just not where you were looking. That night, we talked. Really talked. About everything that had gone wrong, and everything we still could make right. It wasn't easy. Healing never is. But it began with honesty. Months later, as I stood outside again, bare, not in body but in truth, I realized something powerful. Sometimes being bare means showing up as you are, even when the world expects you to hide. Ethan eventually moved away. He left a note on my porch that read, You reminded me that love isn't about being needed, it's about being seen. I smiled when I read it. Because in helping me find my reflection again, he also found his own. If you've ever felt invisible in your own life, let this story remind you, your worth doesn't depend on who notices you. It begins when you notice yourself again. Thank you for watching till the end. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment below and share your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe for more true emotional stories like this. Because sometimes, the quietest stories are the ones that change us the most.